Hey, and welcome to this week's video where we are looking at how to deliberately build trust with your prospects. So this video is inspired by the icon of the week, which is Zig Ziglar, and his very famous quote that says, if people like you, they'll listen to you, but if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And obviously that's the key. That's what we want to be doing, right? So what is trust? I think one of the benefits of looking at good definition is that having a good definition helps us to understand the thing so we can mindfully use the thing better, whatever it is. So in this case, we're looking at trust, and trust is defined as a firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. Now, this is really interesting. I think the reliability and ability specifically stand out to me. When we're in business, perhaps we're a freelancer, perhaps we're a small business, we need to be seen as reliable and able to help our prospect, our customer, do the thing that they're hiring us for, right? So I think that helps us. That is what trust is. And it's important because trust breeds a sense of being safe and certain. And if we want someone to buy from us, there has to be a sense of certainty that we can help, that we're able to help them do something that they want to do. A sense of certainty is one of our core human needs. And if we're not catering for that, if that's violated rather, then we're just not going to make a sale because that trust won't be there. People will not feel safe to make that purchase, have that transaction with us. It's not going to happen. So without trust, our content's going to be ignored. We're not going to be taken seriously, so sales won't be made. So it really, really is critical for success and creating new business and revenue. And one of the interesting things about trust, you might think, oh, someone either trusts me or they don't, but trust isn't binary like that. It exists on a spectrum. So people need to trust you a whole lot more to recommend you than they do to just read one of your blogs. So I think understanding this helps us to realize that our job is one of continuously nurturing our prospects down this spectrum so that they are able and capable and willing to do more things, to take different kinds of action, creates that forward motion that takes them from being a stranger to somebody that buys from us. So like I said, trust creates forward motion. And really all this spectrum is here is just another way of this sales funnel. It's just positioned in a different way. And at the top, when we're earning attention, people might engage with a video of ours. You need some trust, some level of trust to do that, so people aren't wasting their time. But you need a whole lot more when you're down here at the bottom of the funnel. And what's interesting is that prospects don't tend to be mindful of levels of trust. They tend not to intellectualize, oh, I'm feeling 6 out of 10 trust in favor of him today. It's not like that. And what people tend to do is experience that trust through the actions that they're willing to take. And at each stage of the sales process, there is some kind of expectation in terms of quality of video, quality of content, quality of communication, quality of interaction. There is some kind of expectation that's embedded into that process that whether the consumer, the prospect, is mindful of it or not, it exists, it's there, and we need to realize that so we can deliberately cater for it. And like I've hinted at, if those expectations are met and exceeded, we create forward motion. We enable people to feel safe enough to move further along that spectrum of trust. That's all very well and good. So how do we create trust? How do we go about doing it? Well, first of all, it's not just a tactical thing. It's not just testimonials. It's not just logos. It's not just having a good review, a good rating on Trustpilot. Those things can help, and they do help largely, but that's not only what trust is. It's everything. It really, really is everything. So we think of this as all interactions with our brand. Every single touch point must be congruent, in line with what our prospect expects and needs from us. this word congruent is super important when it comes to building trust. So there has to be congruence with who we are and what we say we will do. So, for instance, if we are a graphic designer, let's say we meet somebody at a networking event, that's the first time that we've had their attention, we've had a good conversation with them, and we send them our web link and our website looks like this. There's an incongruence there between what we expect and need a graphic designer to be compared to what we're getting. Likewise, if we're talking to someone, if we've had dealings with someone that's in wealth management, perhaps they've got a nice looking website, we've had a good conversation on the phone, they sound very professional, and they rock up in one of these, again, there's an incongruence there. It doesn't matter if they've got 5-star reviews. Seeing something like this, which is incongruent of the image that we have of what they should be like, to fill us with that sense of safety and certainty that they're going to manage our wealth effectively. If we something like this, that is going to be shattered. So we need to have that congruence all the way through the process, from first touch point all the way through to after sales. Super important that we are mindful of that. So like I've hinted at, not meeting expectations or failing to live up to promises creates incongruence. Incongruences feel wrong. They don't feel right. And that's largely how people are going to make and judge their decision making, whether something feels right or not. That's how it's going to be in the first instance. And then what we tend to use is logic to justify those decisions to ourselves. But really, that feeling of safety and certainty, if it's not there, a sale is very, very unlikely to happen. So how do we make sure that we're doing it right? How can we make sure that all of these touch points are congruent? Well, first things first, self-knowledge trumps a lot of things, right? So we need to be mindful of who we are, like ourselves or our brand, and what those expectations are. And we used to use empathy and almost pretend that we're a member of our audience. It's a good exercise to do, actually. And look at the expectations that there are of our brand, of us, in relation to what we do and what the prospect needs. What do they need to feel safe? What do they need to feel certain? And then we need to be mindful that trust exists on a spectrum, and because of that, it's not just a 0 to 1 thing. It's something that we earn a bit of, and then we have to keep on working hard to grow and develop and nurture that trust down the spectrum to transform our prospect from, like I say, a prospect or a lead into a paying customer. And always asking the question, always making sure, are we congruent with what they need, with their expectations of us? So I know you like some tactics, so let's look at some trust building tactics. Reviews obviously are good, case studies can be great, endorsements if you're a brand that's appropriate for, certifications, testimonials, proof of results like hero stats, social proof, and logos of past clients. They're all well and good. You can't just have reviews, you can't just have social proof or logos and expect that to be enough. Obviously, like I've hinted at throughout this, trust is more than just a tactical thing. Again, just reinforcing that point, like I said, these are secondary. These tactics are secondary if we're not consistently congruent and, crucially, showing up regularly and making and keeping promises consistently. That's how we nurture trust. That's how we earn trust and build trust throughout the spectrum, which is the same as, throughout the sales funnel. It's the same, just different ways of looking at it. So again, just to bookend this video, if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. So I hope you've got a lot from this video. I've really tried to dive into the principles behind trust rather than just going tactics. Tactics only work if the right principles are behind them. So hopefully that's what this video has taught you. And we can all mindfully and deliberately build trust with the people that matter most to us. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop them below or DM me or message me on Instagram. I'm Apricot Amir. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next week. Bye.